What zero-tolerance school stories do you have? I went to a very shitty school district. I mean, this place is scum in so many ways. My little brother has and mild autism. He's a very nice kid and always has been. I mean, he opens doors for everyone and compliments people he doesn't even know. Anyways, there was a kid in his grade who was the biggest asshole. He was mean to everyone, even the poor kids who were his friends. He always picked on my brother and his friends, calling them retarded and everything else. One day, we get a code red. Everyone is stuck in their classrooms and there had been a recent trend in girls fighting in the bathroom, so everyone assumed that was what was going on. No. I wish it had been a girl fight. I get called down to the office about an hour later. My brother and his best friend were walking to class. They were at the top of one of the stairwells when asshole McCasshat came up behind them and shoved my brother down the stairs as hard as he could. My brother tried to grab onto the brick wall to stop himself from falling and ended up dragging his hand down the bricks, ripping his hand apart. He still has the scar. He hit his face on the tile at the bottom after doing several head over heels rolls down the stairs. His nose and lip were bleeding and his back was hurt so bad they thought he had broken it. He ended up going to the ER. Fast forward a week later. He's back in school and the principal calls him to her office. This bitch, I don't know how this bitch was ever allowed to work in a school. She made my brother shake hands with asshole and make up. She said the alternative was both of them getting suspended because she did not believe my brother did nothing to provoke him from pushing him down the stairs, despite 2 witnesses telling her what happened. My brother has been bitter over that ever since. Also, when my mom found out he had to shake asshole McCasshat's hand, she went to the school and confronted the principal. The principal told my mom, well, maybe if your son wasn't annoying it wouldn't have happened. My mom pulled her across the desk and a secretary had to pull her off of her. What medical condition do you have that you thought was completely normal? Until recently, reflecting on an experience from my childhood, I had never realized its magnitude. I was 6 years old, and had a birthmark dead center on my back. It had obviously been there my whole life, so I never thought anything of it. One day, at a routine checkup, the doctor noticed it was growing irregularly and needed removal. The problem was, with it right over my spinal column, full-blown surgery was needed. I remember being angry that I couldn't eat dinner the night before, and had to wake up before the sun did. We arrived and I was immediately put in a gown, and eventually, a bed. Then, our mother FING priest showed up. As a kid, this was just a visit from a friend. As an adult, Omega Kultavadid. Prayers were said, and I was wheeled to the operating room, now scared shitless, realizing it was actually going to happen. They put a mask on my face and told me they were going to give me monkey juice and to count backwards from 100. I did as they said, and fell asleep at 93 with a giggle. I woke up paralyzed, which was the scariest part of the entire ordeal. Apparently that part of the anesthetic hadn't worn off yet. I was in the hospital for a day, being fed just the tips of popsicles, since the sticks made me throw up, by my mom. What's your worst? I know this looks bad, but I can explain moment. A female friend of mine who is a police officer was on a welfare check and was bit by the property owner's dog. She was about a mile from my house when bit, and because I am an emergency medical technician she decided to call me to see if I could inspect where she was bitten and advise if she needed to go to the hospital. She show up at my house and limps into the kitchen telling me the dog bit her just below her left butt cheek on the rear of her upper thigh. I was worried that the bite had broke the skin and she would need to get it bandaged and possibly get a rabies shot. I told her that I would have to take a look at the bite to help her, so she takes off her duty belt and pulls her pants down to around her knees to expose the bite area. It didn't look too bad, but there were 2 spots where the dog's teeth had broke the skin. I told her I would bandage it up so she could make the 20-minute drive to the clinic. I was just about to bandage her leg when my wife walks through the door. There I am with one of our female friends, standing in our kitchen, in her police officer uniform, pants down. She was wearing a thong. I was sitting so basically her ass was in my face, and my hands on her upper thigh/butt. We both had the deer in the headlight stare as we realized how bad this must have looked to my wife. We then both shouted out in unison it was a dog bite. What is your favorite? And that's why we had to put this sign up story. My husband and I moved into our first home. It was a completely renovated, amazingly cool house. We knew the previous owner flipped it and it was a bona fide bachelor pad, leather bar, pinball machine, blue underlighting in the kitchen/bathroom, hot tub, the whole 9 yards. A few weeks after moving in we noticed people kept stopping by the house asking for Alex. We told them he didn't live here anymore and they always would ask if we had his new address. They were nice enough, but it was starting to get annoying. One Tuesday evening around 11 o'clock we were falling asleep on the couch and all of a sudden some guy strung out appeared in our living room. He opened the sliding door right next to us and walked in asking for Alex. My husband stood up and was like, what the F, Alex doesn't live here anymore, tell all your friends, and the guy left. We learned the next day from our neighbors that Alex was the local drug kingpin in the area and frequently had his unsavory clientele over to pick up product here at all hours of the day/night. That weekend we put up a sign that said Alex doesn't live here, went out and got a massive Rottweiler. We named him Alex. What's the stupidest thing a teacher ever did at school? When I was in high school, my chemistry teacher demonstrated how electricity separates the oxygen and hydrogen atoms in water molecules. He had the complete setup and isolated the hydrogen in a fairly large glass container and capped it. Then he asked the magic question, if I was to drop a flame into this container what would happen? A fireball, I responded. He snorted, rolled his eyes and looked at the A student, who only did well because he bought the teacher's edition of the textbook online. Wrong. Explain too, my name, why, Joey. Smart kid Joey, scoffed at me and flippantly said, because it needs oxygen to combust, duh. Right, smirked my teacher. There is no oxygen present in this container, therefore the flame will be deprived of fuel and go out. I couldn't believe their stupidity. And just shook my head. Just before the fireball engulfed my teacher's face, burning off his eyebrows and causing him to throw himself backwards so hard he rolled over his lab table and fell off, dislocating his shoulder, I turned to my friend and whispered, "Gee, I wonder what the hydrogen is going to mix with the second he opens that container. What should you know before getting married? I'm divorced. You should know that while you think you might be communicating well, you can always do better. What I mean by that is that relationships take rigorous honesty and compassion. An example of many, I might sacrifice something because my significant other prefers something else. Not communicating that you are sacrificing something to your so is a problem. Sacrifices can turn into resentments and your partner has no idea that this is happening. If something bothers you, say it. Don't be desperate and let things slide all the time, you'll turn bitter eventually. The more honest you are about how you feel about this little things. When the bigger stuff comes around, you'll be strong as a relationship to be able to take it. Being married means going through the thick and the thin. If your relationship can't take you being honest about what you and don't like, even the smallest details, then how can you expect dealing with serious matters? I don't know if I'm explaining myself well, but I hope I can really transmit the root of what I'm trying to say. Be honest. Deeply, even if it's dumb. Most discussions are a result of something else that has nothing to do with what's going on. Stop the moment. Get honest. Get real. Speak with emotions. Communicate from the heart. Resolve your issues. If you don't have this down before you're married, you're going to have to work on it constantly from now on. My marriage crashed because of this. It didn't end because of infidelity or economics or anything other than the fact that I would say something and she would understand something else. We were two people living together who felt like we were all alone. What's a simple everyday approach to slightly mess with people, without them picking up on it? I have so many of these that I named a few of them. The key: parade the situation. You and some friends or family are returning to your home. You, being the key holder, approach the door to unlock it. Your friends or family are ideally engaged in conversation and are generally ignorant of your activities. The trick: go through the motion of flipping through your keys, preparing to unlock the door. Realize that you have the wrong key, and flip to a new one. Then realize that you actually had the right key the first time, and go back. Keep doing bouncing between potential successful lock candidates until someone explicitly tells you to unlock the damn door. If they say, "Are you going to unlock the door?" you say, "Yeah, I had the wrong key," or something dismissive. My record is about 15 minutes of people standing outside my apartment, until someone eventually concludes that I have no intention of unlocking the door. Hint for success: do not painstakingly flip through every key. It's obvious and people notice. Also helps to actually try a wrong key in the door, assuming that you know it will fit. The knot along the situation: you're in a lighthearted conversation with someone. If you do this in a serious conversation, you're an asshole. The trick: somewhere in the middle, ideally while your partner is expounding upon a point, cease verbally replying and begin simply nodding along. See how long they will talk for before they notice that you aren't contributing to the conversation. The longer they take to notice, start disengaging even nonverbal cues, and just stare at them blankly. Hint: ease into a state of non-reply. Some verbal responses, such as yes, of course, that gradually become a humming hum, should preface merely nodding. This trick is actually somewhat dangerous, as some people will never notice that you aren't responding, and you may find yourself mired in an unwanted conversation. The hand off the situation: you're in a public place and are carrying some garbage in hand that isn't obviously garbage. For example, an empty soft drink from McDonald's ''s. The trick: hand the empty container to a friend and ask them to hold it for you for just a second. Fish around in both of your pockets as if you're looking for something. Don't find it. Search more pockets. Check your phone and look flustered. Never retrieve the item from their hand. Hint: engage the victim in conversation at the same time. It's a good distraction.